Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Monday, February 10th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will reach a mild high of 65.8 degrees, with a low of 46.8 degrees, making it a pleasant winter day in Southern California. Coming up, we'll examine the potential impacts of Trump's decision to shut down a key consumer protection agency and what it means for financial oversight in America. We'll also analyze how China's recent trade measures are targeting specific areas of the United States and what that means for local economies. Plus, we'll look at how Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania have achieved a significant milestone by finally severing their remaining Soviet-era electrical connections. All this and more ahead on Alex's News. We begin this morning with a significant development in consumer protection. The Trump administration has effectively shut down a major financial watchdog agency. Joining us with the details is our Washington correspondent, Ethan Parker. Ethan, walk us through what's happening with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Grace, according to Federal News Network, just yesterday, the Trump administration essentially pulled the plug on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB. This came through directives from Russell Vought, who's the new director of the Office of Management and Budget.
What exactly does this shutdown entail?
Well, it's quite comprehensive. Time magazine reports that all proposed rules are being halted, investigations are being suspended, and even the agency's headquarters in Washington, D.C. will be closed for a week. Perhaps most notably, they're stopping all supervision and examination activities, which are crucial to the agency's watchdog function.
Can you give our viewers some context about the CFPB's role and what this means for consumers?
Certainly. The CFPB was created after the 2008 financial crisis, and according to KGNS.TV, it's been incredibly effective at protecting consumers. The agency has secured nearly $20 billion in relief for Americans through various measures like debt cancellation and loan reductions. As of this morning, even the agency's website is down, showing only a page not found message.
There's also a funding issue at play here, isn't there?
Yes, that's a crucial point. The OMB director has declared that the CFPB won't be allowed to draw its next round of funding from the Federal Reserve, calling its current reserves of $711.6 million, quote, excessive. However, it's worth noting that the Supreme Court recently upheld this funding mechanism as constitutional in a 7-2 decision.
What's been the reaction to this shutdown?
It's been quite polarizing. Senator Elizabeth Warren, who was instrumental in creating the CFPB, has strongly criticized the move, saying it gives big banks and giant corporations the green light to scam families. Meanwhile, advocacy groups like Better Markets argue this benefits Wall Street at the expense of average Americans. The Trump administration maintains that the CFPB represents government overreach.
And what about the legal implications of this decision?
Legal experts point out that while the president can remove the CFPB director following a 2020 Supreme Court ruling, there are questions about whether the OMB director can legally block the CFPB's Federal Reserve funding, as this is protected by the Dodd-Frank Act. The status of pending consumer cases and existing settlements remains unclear.
Thank you, Ethan, for that comprehensive report. This is certainly a story we'll continue to follow. We turn now to our second story of the morning, where a new chapter in U.S.-China trade tensions is unfolding today. Our economic correspondent Chloe Martinez is here with the details. Chloe, what's happening with these counter tariffs?
Thanks, Grace. According to NPR's reporting, China has just implemented a series of retaliatory tariffs today in response to President Trump's recent 10% tariff on Chinese imports. These countermeasures include 15% tariffs on coal and liquefied natural gas, along with 10% tariffs on crude oil, agricultural machinery, and large engine vehicles.
Can you break down the scale of these trade actions for our viewers?
Certainly. As KPBS has reported, there's a significant disparity in the scope of these tariffs. The U.S. measures affect approximately $450 billion worth of Chinese goods, while China's retaliatory tariffs only impact about $15 minus $20 billion in American products.
Which regions of the U.S. are expected to feel the biggest impact?
According to multiple sources, the effects will be particularly pronounced in specific states. Texas's energy sector is expected to take a significant hit, while manufacturing hubs in Indiana and Ohio, especially those producing agricultural machinery, will likely feel the strain. States like North Dakota, Kentucky, Alabama, and West Virginia, with their strong manufacturing and energy sectors, are also particularly vulnerable.
What's the historical context here? Haven't we seen similar tariffs before?
Yes, and that's an important point. Perplexity's analysis shows that Trump's previous tariffs from 2018 to 2020 didn't achieve their intended goals. Instead, they led to higher consumer prices and job losses in manufacturing. The Tax Foundation is now estimating that these new 2025 tariffs could increase taxes by more than $800 per U.S. household.
And I understand there's more than just tariffs at play here?
That's right, Grace. China has also expanded export controls on critical minerals and launched an antitrust investigation into Google. They've also added several U.S. companies to their unreliable entity list. Perhaps most concerning, President Trump has threatened even more measures, including a potential 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, and possible new tariffs targeting Taiwan and Europe.
Thank you for that comprehensive update, Chloe. We'll certainly keep following this developing story. Here are some other headlines. In a strong reaction to recent USAID funding cuts, the Vatican's charity arm Caritas has expressed outrage, warning that millions could die and many more will be left in poverty. Catholic Relief Services, which serves over 200 million people across 121 countries, will lose nearly half of its $1.5 billion annual funding. The cuts have already halted more than 100 projects in Bangladesh alone, affecting thousands of workers and vulnerable families. In an exciting wildlife discovery, 2 rare black wolves have been captured on camera, crossing a stream in a Polish forest. Footage, shared by SAVE Wildlife Conservation Fund Poland, provides valuable insights into these elusive creatures, whose black coloration is the result of a rare genetic variation. Renowned Finnish designer Jurja Paragraph Mark Kukapuro has passed away at the age of 91. Known for his iconic postmodern chairs, including the Caroselli chair, which was once named the world's most comfortable by the New York Times, Kukapuro's work is featured in prestigious museums, including New York's Museum of Modern Art. Residents returning to the Syrian town of Telefon Rifat are finding their homes in ruins and discovering extensive underground tunnel networks built during previous conflicts. The town's infrastructure is barely functional, with streets lined with rubble and significant structural damage, complicating reconstruction efforts. In a fascinating scientific discovery, the presence of endangered Mexican long-nosed bats in southeastern Arizona has been confirmed through DNA analysis of bat saliva found on hummingbird feeders. This innovative research method has helped identify Arizona's only endangered bat species, which is nearly indistinguishable from its sister species except for its slightly larger size and preference for higher elevations. We turn now to a significant development in European energy infrastructure. Our international affairs correspondent Ethan Thompson is here to discuss a historic power grid transition in the Baltic region. Ethan, tell us about this milestone.
Thanks, Grace. Just 2 days ago, on February 8th, we witnessed a remarkable shift in European energy politics as Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania officially cut their last remaining energy ties with Russia by disconnecting from the Soviet-era power grid. According to the Associated Press, this process began with Lithuania, followed by Latvia and Estonia, systematically switching off all remaining transmission lines.
This sounds like a massive undertaking. What kind of preparations were needed?
Indeed, it was extensive. As reported by the Clinton Herald, 16 power lines connecting these Baltic nations to Russia and Belarus had to be dismantled. The EU invested heavily, providing over now $1.2 billion to build new infrastructure, including underwater cables in the Baltic Sea. They've established key connections through projects like Estlink 1 and 2 to Finland, Nordbalt to Sweden, and Litpol Link to Poland.
How will this affect their current power supply?
Interestingly, while they were still physically connected to the Russian grid until now, the Baltic states haven't actually purchased any Russian or Belarusian electricity since May 2022. They've been relying on local generation and EU imports through existing interconnectors. The Baltic power system will operate independently for 24 hours before fully integrating with European networks.
Were there any security concerns about this transition?
Yes, absolutely. According to reporting from the Associated Press, The Baltic states took special precautions, particularly in Latvia, to prevent any possible provocations during the transition. They also formally notified Moscow and Minsk about the disconnection plan last year to maintain transparency and prevent any hostile reactions.
And what about the impact on consumers? Should residents expect changes in their electricity prices?
Latvia's Minister for Climate and Energy, Kaspars Melnis, suggests that the immediate transition might not directly affect electricity prices. However, there's optimism that new renewable energy sources could lead to lower prices by the end of this year. The full economic impact is still being assessed.
Thank you for that comprehensive report, Ethan. This has been story 3 of 3. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.5, Gemini Flash 2.0, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.